Hello everyone and welcome back to the Steam Trail Gaming News, this time for the 11th of November 2017. My name is Kralzitz and I will be guiding you through today's news. And we do have one controversy on our hands with the Last of Us trailer. We're going to talk about that a bit, talk about the points that the critics have, my opinion on that. Then we're going to talk about Ubisoft planning to go with more games to the Switch, unlike EA, and GameStop almost sending out through their Xbox One X supply, which is pretty interesting. And last of all, we're going to look at a little small thing called the Star Wars Jedi Challenge that allows you to become a Jedi in augmented reality. But we will start with the Last of Us trailer controversy explained. So, one of the surprises that we saw at Sony's Paris Game Week press conference was a new trailer to The Last of Us. The thing is, it was very, very gruesome, full of moments that were just violent. And, well, some people certainly liked it. I, for example, think it's a good trailer for a game. A lot of people, especially the ones that loved the first one, didn't really like it. And when you will hear their points, you will sort of understand why. So pretty much the critics go into two categories. One of the criticisms is sort of fine, though I don't think it's perfect. And in my opinion, the second criticism is just plain stupid. Well, let's start with a sort of okay one. So these people are complaining that the trailer is just too violent and that it doesn't fit the tone of the Last of Us series. Though it only had one installment, remember, this is only the second installment for The Last of Us. So while the first Last of Us certainly had to have its fair share of violence, but it also has its cheerful moments where you could laugh and remember the friendship between the characters. While this trailer, which we will actually take a look at in a moment, is very dark. You know what, let's take a look at it right now, so we can see actually what I'm talking about.
Free them, that they may know my...
Remember, this is only part of the trailer.
Yara! Where's the other apostate? Clip her wings.
So you can certainly see what they're talking about. The tone of the trailer just is all the way this, and ends with, you know, the demons coming, and it's just brutal. It's extremely brutal. Like, for example, Eric Kane from Forbes said, I just found myself cringing while watching the video. The violence is incredibly brutal. If the entire game is this grim, I'm not sure how much I'll enjoy it. And for one thing, I can understand that. If you don't enjoy games that are purely brutal, that's fine. That's completely fine, and it's a valid point. On the other hand, if you're a video game critic, this shouldn't really factor in towards your criticisms of the game. If the game has a dark tone, then it's okay for the game to have a dark tone all the way through. And just because the first installment of the series did have its cheerful moments, doesn't mean the second will necessarily have them. And arguing that because you got used to those friendly moments from the first one, that this one has to have them as well, I just don't see that argument really working. Secondly, this is just a trailer, and we don't really know if there won't be any fun moments, like about friendship and connections between people. Another person said, it was Max Scoville and Alan Pierce from IGN. It's honestly a testament to the writing, directing, and acting The Last of Us that my memories of it are the protagonist's friendship rather than its many horrifying and gruesome moments. Giving us a trailer that only shows one of those things without the other is confusing to say the least. Without knowing who anyone is, it's just wholesale murder, which totally misses everything I loved about The Last of Us. And again, this is a fine argument, but the thing is, this is just a trailer, and it's just the first trailer. There are probably going to be coming more trailers. And I'm 99% sure that the whole game won't have this very dark tone. And even if it does, just because the tone of the game is different doesn't mean it's a bad game. It might be a great game. It might have a great story. And just dismissing it on the fact that you got used to something from the first installment isn't really a good way to assess a game's quality. So that's pretty much the first argument, and while I can see their point, I don't necessarily agree with it. The other argument, which is just pure idiocy and, well, obviously comes from Polygon, from Julia Alexander. The fact that their antagonist is a woman herself does little to undercut what the trailer is on its most violent blunt level. An extended sequence of brutal and unexplained violence against women being used to thrill the viewer and ultimately sell a video game. Seriously, did she mess? There were 2 guys who got killed in the trailer. 2 men, and there was 1 woman killed. One of them, was being hanged, and the other got her hands broken. But still, 2 of the 3 women that were hurt in the trailer live. There were 3 guys in the trailer, 1 of them lives, and 2 of them get killed, very violently. One of them gets his head shot through an arrow, the other gets killed by a hammer to the head. Yes, one of the ones dies in the same way, the other gets one of her arms broken with the hammer, and one of them is being strangled, but 2 of them live, and the antagonist of the trailer dies. And this is sort of a world where antagonists die, and you just sort of expect it. But this is just obviously being viewed through the lens of a social justice warrior who just sees the woman, and she just completely ignores the 2 guys who die in here. And yes, it's just dumb. Nobody should pay any attention to this argument and not buying the game because there are women getting hurt in the game, but there are also men getting hurt in the game. And just because there are women being hurt in the game, not buying it because of that reason is dumb and just shows the idiocy of Polygon even more. So if anybody is still reading Polygon, you should just stop. And that's pretty much the controversy. That it's too violent, it doesn't fit the tone of the previous game. And okay, you may not like the game because of it, but you shouldn't criticize the game. You should always criticize the game based on what the game is, not what you think it should be. That's the big problem with hype these days, that you sort of make this image of a game inside your head. And you think, okay, this game's going to be this, this, and this. And they never said it's going to be this, this, and that. It's a completely new game, set in the same universe, set in a series, but it's still a completely new game, and you should view it as such. Okay, let's move away from The Last of Us. Let's move to Ubisoft, planning to make more Nintendo games, Nintendo Switch games. So far, Switch has been a very good platform to Ubisoft. They just released, what was it? The game where they combined their Little Rabbits and Mario. Then they also released Kingdom Battle and Rayman Legends, and they sold very well as far as we understand. And because of that, they're planning to make more games. For 2018, we should probably be seeing Just Dance 2018, Monopoly. Steep is coming to the Switch, which I find a very interesting choice, and I would really like to see that. And a game that we don't know that much about, it's a game called Starlink Battle for Atlas. And I'm really glad, because the Switch just seems like a great system that deserves many more games. And the fact that Ubisoft is getting great sell figures on the Switch just shows that EA withholding making more games for the Switch because they aren't sure whether their sales numbers are good enough is just the fact that EA's games aren't that good for the Switch. Either they were riddled with bugs, the marketing sucked, or the game was just pure boring. Hopefully EA will learn from this, and the fact that more and more third-party developers are going to come to the Switch will just cement its success in the future. Our third piece of news is this time about the Xbox One X and GameStop. And so we know that GameStop has almost fully went through their supplies of the Xbox One X. We don't know how many units they have actually sold because, we don't know how many they're ordered. But what we know that there are many places where you can't really buy an Xbox One X locally. You can still order Xbox One X's from the online store, but whether you will get one locally may vary very heavily. And I'm pretty glad, but I think there is a pretty easy reason behind this. So the Xbox One X is aimed at the more hardcore console gamers. And many of the hardcore console gamers are people who are right on the edge of whether they want to be a console gamer or a PC gamer. They get the same experience. They usually choose the console because their friends play on a console and they want to play on a console. But they are sort of like thinking, oh, should I maybe switch to a PC? I got a few, usually they have a few friends playing on PC because everybody has to have a computer anyways. Just even if for school or work. But usually, if they just have for school or work, they will have a crappy notebook that won't really play many games, or even a Chromebook that won't play any quote-unquote real games. Sorry for bumping the microphone there. The thing why I think the Xbox One X is so successful right now are the prices of graphics cards. So because of the insane prices of cryptocurrencies right now, graphics cards are at an insane price point. Like, I literally could probably take the graphics card in my year-old computer and sell it for more than what I bought it for. And that's a year-old graphics card that has gone through decent use, and I would still probably get more. I'm not sure about the prices in America. Like comparing American prices to European prices is very weird because when you're saying the price, you usually don't calculate the tax. And well, we just automatically do that, because the law pretty much requires our companies to just show the price with the tax. I remember when I was in America, I found that so illogical. Like, okay, so this thing is $2.99, and then I went to the counter and said like $3.14. I was like, what? Why? But it said $2.99. We were like, oh, but yeah, but the tax. I was like, the tax isn't displayed, and we were like, you're not from around here, right? I was like, yeah, I'm just here on vacation. Like, why don't you just show the price with tax? It would be so much more easier, because like you go to a shop and you're like, okay, so I got $5, so I can buy something worth $5. But really, when you take the prices and the tax, you can buy something like worth $4.50. It's ridiculously stupid. But back to the topic. The prices of graphics cards are so high right now, and they're driving the total price of the computers up very heavily. And the Xbox One X is already a great money deal when it comes just to the prices of hardware. Like, when you consider you can play games at most likely 1440p, very good details without any lag, and some games you can play at 4K. For that you need at least a $2,000 PC. And well, I'm talking including a monitor and peripherals. So like just a gaming system that would be everything would be around $2,000, more likely around $1,500 if you would go for new parts. I'm not talking about used. If you would go for used, you could probably go for around $1,000, maybe even less. But still, even if you would go for used parts, that's still a very different price point when talking to $500 for an Xbox One X. And you most likely have already a TV at home. The only thing that might be happening is upgrading to a 4K TV, and then the prices get again comparable to a used system, but they are still uncomparable to a new system. Because you would probably get around $900 for the Xbox One X and a small sized 4K TV. If you want a bigger one, then you're probably going around $1,200. But compare that to the $2,000 or $1,500 for the PC, they are very different numbers. Yes, if you take into consideration the pricing of games, if you take into consideration the fact that you can also work from your computer, and that a computer is most likely much more easily resaleable in the future, and you know, the fact that you don't have to play for online multiplayer, etc., etc., the prices will get to a similar price point at a certain level. The thing is, the Xbox One X is just, here it is, you plug it in, it most likely works. Oh, you just have to wait for updates and such stuff. While computers, even though these days they are very similar to just, if you have pre-built one, or you just pay somebody $20, pay the company you're buying it from $20 to build the computer for you, then it's very easy. If you want to build a computer yourself and save the $20, you can do that, obviously. I, for example, did that, not because I wanted to save the money, but because I actually enjoy doing it, and I like just, you know, that stuff. I like overclocking these things, and that's not something a company will do for you. But if you paid $20 to a company to assemble the computer for you and install the system, you're just getting something you plug in and it works. It's pretty much the same. So the only thing then is like how hard is it to install games, and if you're using Steam, it's really not that hard. You just have to install one application, and honestly, if you probably ask the company, if you give them a list of programs that are free to install them, they will probably do that for you for like $5 extra. But I'm still very glad that the Xbox One X is selling pretty well, because that gives an incentive to Sony and Microsoft for the future to give us more powerful consoles. And thus, less limits for the PC. Because right now, at the moment, the most powerful PCs are way above even the Xbox One X. I mean, like way above when it comes to pure performance. Especially if you go really bonkers, if you just don't care about money, you can get a PC that's 3-4 times more powerful in terms of raw performance than an Xbox One X. Not even talking about the PlayStation 4 Pro. And the fact that games are being essentially artificially limited because of the Xbox One X and PlayStation Pro, not even talking about the standard models, it sort of screws up computer games that could look much better and have much more, like, larger maps, just for example. And if there is a market for more powerful consoles from the get-go, like Microsoft might even be like, so the Xbox One X sold like crazy. Let's just make it from the start. Let's just have 2 consoles. One that is like the middle tier and one that is the upper tier. And suddenly gaming PCs are in a much better spot because there's just games that can use more power. And the last piece of news is about the Star Wars Jedi Challenge. So this is just like sort of a little piece of news. It's not really something that most people will buy, but I think it's a very interesting thing. I will show you a little 30-second video pretty much showcasing the thing, so let's watch this, and then I will talk about AR and VR and how I view this could actually be a good use of AR in my opinion. So let's watch the video.
Awaken your inner Jedi.
So as you can see, it's sort of a AR headset comparable to the Microsoft HoloLens we saw a few years ago. And it's made by Lenovo, just if anybody wonders. And it's essentially a headset that just includes one game. And while that deal itself is probably really crappy, especially considering the whole thing costs $200, though I will guess that's mainly because of licensing and the fact that you get that Star Wars looking controller. Though I would love to have that, if like that just looks awesome, and just having that would be awesome. I just wish it would actually like push out physical stick. It wouldn't even have to be like glowy, just have it there. And if you have the AR glasses on, then it glows with you for the glasses. But the thing I want to talk about is the fact that AR is actually more the future of gaming, in my opinion, than virtual reality. Virtual reality has the big problem of essentially requiring dedicated space to it, at least in its current form. Once we get to a point where people can just wear gloves and we'll have sort of almost a neural link that they can actually feel things, touching them, and smell. And there are a lot of ways to make that much easier, but you still need that dedicated space in which you can move. And most people just can't dedicate that space, because how many people you know who just have an empty room that they can use purely for games that they play an hour a day? No, not so many people. Not nobody. It's like, but let's say 1 in 10,000 people will have the room they can dedicate, and 1 in 10,000 from those will dedicate that room to it. VR is great for games where you just sit down, where like cockpit games, whether it's driving, whether it's space, whether it's flying. These games are great for VR. But until we get to a point where we actually feel like we are inside the game, any games that require movement just work better in AR. For one thing, AR is much less resource dependent. You could probably run that thing we just saw of a cell phone pretty easily. So you will have a cell phone in your pocket that will be through some technology connected to the AR, and you can go outside and do that outside. Yes, you will look like a dork, but if it catches on, nobody will care. Like these days, if you say somebody, "Oh, I play games in my free time," they'll be like, "Yeah, good. What do you play?" "I play this." Fine. Nobody will consider you a dork. Go back 15 years. Everybody who played games was a dork. If this catches on, AR could become the new game, the new dork for 5-10 years, and then just become the norm. And there are a lot of games that could benefit this. Just remember a few days ago, maybe it was even yesterday, we talked about the new Harry Potter AR game. We had the Pokemon game, and imagine that if you didn't have to go around holding your phone like an idiot and actually looking at your phone, not watching the road, but instead you had glasses that, yeah, these glasses are huge, but imagine if there were like smaller glasses that would obviously be AR glasses, but wouldn't look as ridiculous. Then you could just go around, play Wizards, play Jedi, play whatever, and have tons and tons of fun. VR is certainly the future for certain things, like in education, it's unparalleled. Like the fact that, yeah, you can just take 400-500 students inside an operation room, if they're medical students, and show them exactly what the surgeon is seeing. Is amazing. The same thing for any engineering, where you can just, you know, here students take the Rift, There's an engineer from NASA streaming right now how he's building a rocket engine. And those things are seriously amazing. AR is, in my opinion, much better for gaming, at least for the moment. And AR is also the future for smaller scale. No, it's not smaller scale education, for younger education. Imagine if you're in high school and at the start of the day, you just put on your glasses and you record everything, and then you can watch it in real time home, like rewatch everything that's been said. Your books, you won't have books, you will just have an AR book. It will just be there. That's the future of education. Not even talking about the fact that if we get AR that's easily controllable, then things like cell phones just become irrelevant, because you will just have glasses and you will just be like, oh, hey mom, how are you? And you will see your mom here in a little corner and she will chat with her wherever. The only thing that this requires is, I'm not sure if even 5G will be enough for this, because the amount of data that will need to be streamed is freaking ridiculous. But let's say something like 2-3 generations of mobile networks from now, we will certainly be there in terms of bandwidth. The only question I have is latency, but I'm sure the engineers can actually solve that. And with that being said, that's going to be it for today. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, be sure to give us a like. Be sure to subscribe to our channel. You know, those likes actually help us. Subscriptions help us also. If you're watching this on Steam, be sure to upvote and to follow our blog. And that's gonna be it. So, see you guys later with more gaming content.